Well, wonderful one, girl, wonderful one, girl, wonderful one, girl, wonderful one. You make my love little tighter, my heart little brighter. Say wonderful one, you're a wonderful one.
Generally, in our culture at least, we don't want to offend anyone. I think there's a really big stigma against offending people. And, you know, as time goes on, we should have open conversations about these things.
I'd say that if you're a Christian, a true Christian, and you believe in God and you believe in the Bible and everything, you will accept everybody. You know, that old saying, everybody asks, what would Jesus do? You know?
I think religion has interfered with man's ability to make choices and respect one another.
God created us one way. It's just obvious that He created man and woman so they can procreate.
I don't think He cares. Right and wrong is about doing good to others, really. It's nothing about what is preference.
I would say there is no wrong. Say people are who they are, and they feel the way they feel, and people should just accept that.
I think tolerance actually is very superficial. I think it's shallow.
I think for me, moving beyond tolerance comes from recognizing the humanity in everyone. We all have these little things that make us human beings, and it's easy to forget that. No matter what you believe or who you are or where you're from, we still have that in common.
How would Jesus respond to me? He'd probably be walking down the street right here, and he'd come up and see my sign and go, "What's this all about?" And he wouldn't even treat me differently. He wouldn't even think about my sexual identity.
I think love is probably the most overused word in the planet.
Compelling love to me means something that grabs you. You have no other choice in your right state of mind or your feelings to try to deny what you have, the responsibility of what you are when you're in love with something, your art, the person you're with, you know, what you do.
My name is Deborah Goodman, and I'm out and proud lesbian. I came out to myself when I was 21 in college, and it took me several years to fully accept the fact that, okay, I know I'm gay because I love women. So being able to express that in myself and then being able to comfortably tell my parents, being fine with whatever reaction they would give me. Because I knew I would probably be kicked out. I assumed I would. And I thought, you know what, if I end up on the streets, I have to be okay with that. Because I'd rather be me than be something that they want me to be. And thank God they were fine with it. They'd rather me be sociable and happy than anything else. It is hard for me to to show my identity in a way I feel comfortable doing it without confusing everybody. And it still hurt as I grew up because I was so busy trying to please everybody that I was walking backwards. You know, I would wear stuff I wasn't happy in. I would wear dresses I didn't like just because of the confusion people kept having with how I looked. A lot of people would call me boy because I had short hair. I would not wear makeup. They thought I was more of a guy than a girl. So no one understood butch, meaning a male-ish version of a female. And the confusion is what hurts the most. I think someone who would be on the other side of the table from me, who would be the opposite, would be a religious fanatic. The religious people who are extreme, who do not want to be able to reach out and communicate. And with that hurt, it keeps me from being able to sit at the table, because then it rattles me up. And if we're both rattled up on both sides of the table, then it doesn't help anybody. So you know what? For someone who's the opposite of me, who doesn't want to hear me and doesn't like me, it does hurt. And I'm not good at reacting well to it, I guess. The fear I have is not that I would get a hug from a religious fanatic, or I would get maybe a greeting. But the fear is out of the opposite. We don't want you here. Why are you here? We don't understand you. Why are you here? That's the fear I have. Because that's the fear I've always had. I would like to think there's people who feel the same way I do. Feeling unloved, I guess. Feeling like I'm not good enough sometimes. The religious fanatic, the person who doesn't care. I mean, they could be feeling hurtful themselves. I would like to think they feel the way I do, but no one likes to talk. And that's what hurts the most.
The best way that I can think to describe my story is to say that I'm a survivor. I was raised in Houston by my mom, who is a phenomenal woman. My dad was very jealous of the life that my mom had built. He always said that she had spoiled me and that it was his job to undo that and to make me into a man. And the way that he did that was by physically and sexually abusing me. And it was brutal. Without even realizing it, I just withdrew. As a teenager, I began to know that I was different from all my other guy friends, and that I had zero attraction towards any girls, but I was attracted to guys. For 20 plus years, I've struggled with my identity. I'm a believer in Christ that has same-sex attraction. I basically was saying to myself that, if I can't get rid of this same-sex attraction, then there's no way that I can be identified with Jesus. And what Jesus was saying to me was something completely different from that. Jesus has not said to me, go and get rid of your same-sex attraction, then come to me. He says, come to me. That's been a game changer for me. Because of that, the decision that I've chosen for myself is that I'm just, going to live a life of celibacy. It's a choice that, friends of mine on both sides of the fence don't understand, and they don't agree with it. It's a daily struggle. It's a daily battle to believe that Jesus is who he says he is, believing that he's enough for me. God has given me the ability to look past a lot and love people. Working through all of these things in my life, that's one way that it's impacted my life, is that I'm free to love. If I could, sit down today and have a conversation with my dad, what I would say to him is, Dad, I forgive you. And I just wish I had an opportunity to say that.
Love is quite difficult to define, but I think it's about, getting to a point where you accept people for who they are and all the, good qualities and all the flaws.
I think love is the true sense of altruism, where you want to help an individual despite what they may even think of you for doing so.
I don't fall in love based on gender or biological sex. I fall in love with the person, or have sex with the person. It doesn't always involve love.
I don't know, but I believe that God wouldn't want us to do that, because he wouldn't have created a woman. If he wanted a man to be with a man, he would just create another man.
Compelling love sounds to me like a strong form of attraction. Maybe it makes no sense, but it just exists.
No. Do you have compelling love for me?
You've been doing a lot of...
I mean, yeah, or I wouldn't be. You're not an easy person to love. You know that.
I believe he has principles that he set forth, and if you don't follow those, then you do have to answer to the Lord. However, he's going to love you regardless.
I am bisexual, and I'm damn proud of it. I was married for 14 years, but that did not work out. 2 kids came out of that relationship who love me and adore me as a single mom. I don't hide who I am because I feel that is incorrect. You should be able to express who you are both inside and out.
Truth is relative. It's what you perceive in one moment, and just take it.
Truth is about honesty and embracing that inner you.
Right and wrong is always a relative question, so to ask if there's a right or wrong way to express yourself sexually, well, the wrong way is rape.
Yeah.
Bigotry is thinking that you're better than someone just because you have a difference in your lifestyle.
A person isn't necessarily just those beliefs. There are things underneath those beliefs that you can love. The relationship doesn't have to be defined by beliefs that you disagree on. They can be defined by just human connection.
What is grace? A sense of humbleness and acceptance of others, no matter who you are and what you do.
Grace is when somebody can say, okay, if you're this way, then we're not going to say negative things about you.
The only way that I feel like I can move towards someone who has hurt me or is an enemy to me is if I personally choose to do that. It can't be mandated by the government. It can't be a church telling me I should do this. It has to be something that I want to do.
We have 3 adult sons, and I love them all very much. I'm very proud of my sons and their wives and our grandchildren.
Our youngest son, Tim, is gay. We both love each other. We both really honor each other, but we think differently and have different views about him being gay. In a dilemma, there's 2 sides, and which do we choose? And I never want to choose something that alienates Tim. I never want to choose something that harms Tim. And I think he knows that. Whatever happens, I'll love Tim. That's not going to change. He knows that.
The challenge is not loving our son. That's not a dilemma at all. That's a joy, a pleasure, and a gift to love my son. I love Tim, and I love Jesus. And I don't want to betray either one of them, Tim or Jesus. If I betray Jesus, then to me that says I don't believe what he said is truth. Sex is between a man and a woman. I believe the Word of God. And that feels like betrayal to my son, because he's not attracted to women. And I don't want to hurt him by saying that it's wrong, because I love him. These loud voices on both extremes that says, if you love me, you have to choose. You have to choose a side. And I'm not going to choose. I choose to love my Lord, I choose to love Jesus, and I choose to love Tim.
I don't know where this leads us. I just want it to be covered in love and grace, wherever that ends up.
Compelling love to me means that I move beyond concern for myself, and I care more about you than I care about me.
I hope I speak with compassion, with maybe some understanding, even though a lot of this stuff I don't understand. But I don't want to speak in alienating terms. And I don't want to speak about me and you. Let's talk about us.
Grace is giving somebody what they don't deserve.
Truth,
an objective reality and statement of fact.
Tolerance, I believe, is simply putting up with something that you don't agree with.
To describe the characteristic of my polar opposite is to be facing someone who is closed-minded, who is absolutely all-knowing.
They would probably be in high heels, a tight maxi dress, and just not me.
I can't look down on anybody else because I myself was broken with pornography and a lot of illicit relationships when I was younger.
What troubles me most about how I love people is how inconsistent I am and how selfish I am in that. Like sometimes I literally just want to win.
I'm compelled to love that person because people love me despite all of the wrong that I do, all of the wrong that I would call right.
I think truth and grace are both components of love because you can't truly love somebody without being honest with them, so it needs truth. But also, you do have to extend grace because they're not perfect, nor am I.
Kylan is a very straight man, and I'm a very butch lesbian. I bonded with this guy more than I ever thought I would. I was eating at his job one day and was like, I want to do your hair. And he was like, I want you to do my hair.
Compelling love, a love that you can't not accept, something that you're drawn to.
It was as simple as me putting something out into the world and him saying, that sounds like a rad idea.
I absolutely have a friend that is a polar opposite of mine in many ways. It really wakes me up. It jolts me like, oh shit. I've come to realize through our dialogue, through our relationship, that the confines that I've put on life are limiting. And while I know that I believe with conviction certain things in this life, I've come to understand that, God is greater than just my belief.
I'm Robert Jeffers, and I am pastor of the First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. When I think about how compelling love would apply in my own life, I'm often in debates with people who are very much opposed to my point of view. But for me, compelling love is to ask them after the debate is over or after the interview is over, is there something I could pray for you about you or your family situation? It's deeply rooted in the idea of grace. I'm so grateful that God didn't give me what I deserved in judgment, but gave me what I needed, and that was forgiveness. And I believe that as a Christ follower, I have the same responsibility to extend that same kind of compelling love to other people. Well, I think of a liberal blog site recently that did a story on me, and what drove them crazy is that I'm so nice and I smile when I tell them that their lifestyle is wrong. And I think that's what it boils down to. You can be nice, you can be compassionate, you can be friendly, but if you tell gay activists that homosexuality is a sin, you can couch that in terms of, and so is adultery, and so is premarital sex, and so is anger, but the fact that we label it a sin, that I label it a sin, is what drives people crazy. caricatures of people who hold the position I do about the Bible and about what the Bible says about sexuality is, oh, Robert must hate gay people. Well, the fact is nothing could be further from the truth. I've had friends who have contracted AIDS, and I've presided at their funeral services. I've seen the devastating effects of a lifestyle that is opposed to God's plan. To that person who violently disagrees with me, seated on the other side of the table, I want you to hear this clearly. I have fallen short, way short of God's plan for my life. And the same Jesus who saved me and forgave me of all of my sins is willing to do the same for you. I would just say that any connection with somebody with which you fundamentally disagree about the most important issues in your life is going to be a superficial connection. What's being talked about this great connection, it just sounds so wonderful, and everybody holding hands and singing Kumbaya and having all these deep discussions, even though we disagree. I've just never seen that happen. I've never seen that happen. My experience, and we're prisoners of our experience, is I'm much more willing to allow somebody to hold a viewpoint different from mine than they are to allow me to hold my viewpoint. And there's much more need for tolerance on the left than there is on the right. And that's not politically correct to say, but it's certainly my experience.
So to tell my story through the lens of sexual identity and sexual orientation is to tell a really normal story. It's a story of being raised in a very traditional family with 2 siblings. It's a story of coming out right after college and on a tearful Saturday night in my parents' living room and telling them that I'm a gay man, and that fear of being rejected, but instead being completely accepted and loved fully for who I am, and then finding a calling as a pastor and being loved just as fully. You know, I think one of the challenges I feel is that as a gay man, but really as a human being, I don't want to be tolerated. I want to be accepted. And I know that that's really hard sometimes for people, and I think it's hard for people because I'm a gay man, and I think it's hard sometimes for people because I'm a gay pastor. But when someone tells me they tolerate me, to me what that means is they say, I will put up with you only up to a certain point. But when we reach a certain point, then I don't really want to be around you. I can't be a part of your life, or I can't accept a part of you. And instead, when I'm celebrated, when I'm accepted, then that means that I can be fully who I am all the time. I actually, just in the church where I serve now, I think about a person that I visited in the hospital just the other day, and she didn't care when I walked in the hospital room about if I'm gay or not. What she needed was a pastor. And she didn't care if I'm a gay pastor. She doesn't care if I'm a straight pastor or heterosexual pastor. She cares that I'm a pastor. She cares that I care about her. She doesn't care about some label that the world or that society wants to put on me. What she cares about is that I'm there to represent the presence of God and the presence of Jesus Christ in her hospital room when she's really scared. That's what she cares about. When I want someone to accept me, not just tolerate me, I'm asking them to see and to recognize that God created me as a fully whole human being. I don't want or need a label. What I'm asking for is for someone to see God in me and to see God at work in me.
there a right or wrong relating to sexual identity? No. Whatever feels good to you and however your body feels.
I do think there is a right or wrong. The one thing I would say is that, if it hurts someone else.
If Christ can accept those who are sinners, and we all are sinners, then why is the church not accepting those that see things, sexually, the way that they don't?
I came to San Francisco and I got to know a lot of gay people. Not only do I think that there's not anything wrong with who they are, I'm actually struggle to be graceful and cordial with people who are critical of them.
This is my wife. We've been married almost a year. I've been stereotyped, so I have turned that around and I've sort of stereotyped them.
How do I connect with people I'm really different with? I just try to put myself in their shoes. I don't think anyone is actually that different.
Them, to me, is the extreme right who believes that I am the reason that there are illnesses in this world.
When I was around 13, my mom came out to the three of us. We're all about love and acceptance, and it's really hard to connect with someone that is so against that.
I don't think they're judged in our church.
I think they are.
I don't
think there's a real openness and tolerance for diversity.
If I believed in God, which I don't, I would expect him to be open to everything and everybody because he created him.
How I personally decide what's right or wrong is absolutely my gut.
See, I refer to the Bible as what's right and wrong.
Bullshit.
I think God always says that he loves everyone. And so it's no matter if you're a lesbian or if you like boys or if you're gay or whatever. I think he loves really everyone.
Can you love people who you really believe are wrong? Yes, that's kind of what love is.
No, I can't love someone that doesn't want to return or care about me and that hates me. And then that's just an unequal relationship.
I think people really can have radically different ideas on sexuality and how they live their life and still be friends. I have some friends like that.
Compelling love means to me that I have no recourse. I am just hard bent to give it and to share it as much as I possibly can.
Well, to introduce myself, my name is Thowell, and I'm here to raise hell. So I guess my story is just filled with struggle. Struggle, daydreams, demons, monsters, whirlwinds, and new worlds to explore. Half magical, half anxiety-ridden. I was homeschooled for kindergarten, first grade, and I think that had a very big influence on my upbringing. I was often left alone or with my parents. I was kind of a latchkey child growing up. And so that gave me a lot of room to explore my imagination and to explore the underlying magic around us. I think I can tap into pretty easily. They tried really hard to understand me, but it's never easy to bring up a transgender child. So to explain my gender identity, I'm a woman. I was raised as a boy, and I have no interest in surgically altering my body because I don't feel like I need to prove to anyone that I'm a woman. but it's easy for people to assign me as a man, which is very, very frustrating. It's been a war against myself and a war against my parents. I had difficulty relating to them. I had no trust with them, with my emotions. I did not trust that they would take what I was saying seriously. I didn't trust them with my sadness or my anger and my depression. Never talked to them about it. I've seen a lot in my mother. I feel like she sacrificed a lot. Sometimes love is not saying everything that you want to say. I had a difficult time with Christianity. I wanted to believe in a lot of its tenets, but it didn't mean anything to me. A lot of what society had expressed didn't really mean anything to me, and I was really tired of it. What's hurt me most is not having anyone to talk to, not feeling like I have any representation, not knowing how to articulate myself, not having a language to talk about my struggles. That's very frustrating for anyone to deal with. And it's something I would like to be able to help people with, is how to articulate what causes them pain so that they can get help. My purpose is I'm a storyteller, and I'm here to make humanity connect with itself. And I do that through animation. So I'm a world builder and a character creator. The reason why I draw these monsters is I try to bring out these subtle emotions and these creatures, this like kind of forlorn sadness or this longing in these awful demonic forms. And if I can make people emotionally relate to this demon creature with blood pouring out of his face and teeth rotting out, if I can make people relate to these creatures, then certainly I can make them relate to a trans woman.
I would say that up until about 5 years ago, I was living a homosexual lifestyle, believing that I was wanting to have just one single partner for the rest of my life. I was just really praying for God to just bring me another woman. In that process, a friend who's not gay befriended me on the soccer field.
What it was like for me when I met Marissa, or when I began to become friends with Marissa, was I found out that she was gay, and I have a special love for the gay community because of my older brother who is gay.
To be perfectly honest, at first I thought she was hitting on me.
Hilarious. That's awesome. Yeah, I had no idea. She didn't tell me that.
One of my first questions to her was if she knew about my lifestyle. And she said yes. And she never winced. She never did anything but just offer friendship.
Our friendship was very open. You know, I got to share my own life and my own story and my own hurts and my own failures, and I got to hear hers. We just had an openness and a freedom there where there wasn't judgment on either one of our parts.
She might not have approved of my lifestyle, but she always accepted me. She always accepted my questions. She was always very kind and compassionate, and I think that's the thing that just kept on drawing me back what is this? Why are you like this? Why are you so different from others who have judged me? I never felt that she was trying to change me. We were just, we actually had really good times laughing, and our relationship grew, and I really grew to trust her.
It's a funny story. I invited her to church, and I was like, do you want to come to church tonight? And she goes, yeah, I like to hear a good orator.
I was very interested in regards to what her church had to say about my lifestyle. It was in this process where I really started researching and reading the Bible a lot. I felt that I had come to God early in my 20s, and He had given me the peace to live the life that I had. I was angry because He was starting to change my heart and my mind. And I would talk to her about it, and I would just have tears coming down my eyes, and I would look at her, and I would just see nothing but compassion.
I'm not expecting anything from her, and she wasn't expecting anything from me. But to be real, and to be honest, and to be true to self.
As where I am right now in regards to my sexuality, I find women attractive. But in the same token, I find men attractive. I want to be taken care of. I want to be loved. But when I start thinking of what that may look like, since I'm not going to be living a homosexual lifestyle anymore, that means that it would be most likely with a man. But I'm also trusting that if it's not in God's plan for me, that will be okay. I think if I went back into a gay lifestyle, I know in my heart that Cynthia would not love me any less.
I really want relationships that are friendships, not ones where people feel like I'm trying to fix them. I want to move toward people as people who need to be loved. And I want to share myself and my story and my struggles, and in hopes of creating a safe place for them to share theirs.
As I look back and I see that same compassion that was poured on me and grace poured on me, that's how I would hope I would be looking at someone who I didn't agree with, but I wanted to show them love.
I identify myself as a heterosexual female who is attracted to the opposite sex, men.
To describe myself sexually, I guess I would say I don't know the proper term, but I don't know what the proper term is.
I'm straight. I like women. Beautiful women, as you can see.
I'm a woman who would have, if I was having a relationship with somebody, it would be with a man.
Sexually. Right now, very frustrated.
Do you want me to answer that again?
Because of my medical condition, lipodystrophy, people mistake my sexuality for something other than what it is, which is a female. On a daily basis, I'm stared at. I don't mind the questions, because like I said, if you don't know, you don't know. But be sure to ask me directly and don't make assumptions, because if you get to know me, I'm not a bad girl. I'm a nice girl.
Define the word love. It's a good question. Maybe my English is not good enough.
I was raised in the church, and so 2 guys and 2 women, we don't agree with that.
nowadays people don't really focus on that concept of what really love is. And if there's no morals in this world anymore, then there's no right or wrong, and people can just have no guilt conscience.
When you love somebody and they need you the most, you make sure you're there. I left my partner behind when she needed me the most, and I gotta live with that every day the rest of my life.
Compelling love to me is someone that's put their whole heart into doing something for their unselfish reasons.
Truth is telling the truth, is saying what is real. And that's it.
Truth. Something you don't hear too much in the world these days.
Does love involve the word sacrifice? Yes, I think it definitely does, because my children, who I love more than anything in the world, if something were to come into place where I had to sacrifice my life for one of them, I would do it because of my love.
To love someone, you must forgive, you must have tolerance, you must have patience.
It is possible to love someone that judges you. When I'm in a relationship, I love that person for who they are. And sometimes they don't love you back.
John Carswell. I'm 43 years old from Pearland, Texas, a little town right south of Houston. I have a sister that is 51 weeks older than me, that was just my hero growing up. Did everything from teaching me how to tie my shoes, did my homework for me a lot, wrote papers for me. It's hard for me to call her Casey. I grew up with Kathy, and that just by default is what I call her. She changed her name to Casey because it's less gender specific, and she says that she doesn't really want to be a guy. She doesn't feel like she's a girl. She says there's not verbiage for what she thinks she is. That's hard. I don't know how she deals with that, with not knowing who she is, that there's not even a word to describe her. We were so close. Now we're pretty distant. And I feel like most of that's my fault, that we are. After she told our parents that she was gay, and they asked her to leave and not come back, and I just thought, man, the best thing I can do for my sister is just explain to her how wrong she is. It caused a lot of conflict in me. I felt like I was being told to be a believer I need to almost hate my sister. And I didn't. But I did sit her down and tell her how wrong she was and how damaging her lifestyle is. And it really hurt her. When I started trying to wrestle with who Jesus is and if I'm going to follow him, that was kind of the key. If I have to hate my sister to follow Jesus, I can't do that. And then somewhere along the way, after I sat down with some friends and read enough of the Gospels, I kind of came to the conclusion that Jesus doesn't say that. As a matter of fact, I can love my sister because of Jesus and not in spite of Jesus. And I wish she knew that. God, sis, I love you. I love you so much. I love your family, your beautiful girls, and Deborah. I just hope you know that you'll always be my sister, that never changes.
So my name is Dr. Trista Carr. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm also a sexual minority. For me, I didn't take on the label of lesbian because to me that meant I had to denounce Jesus and I had to reject Jesus and my affiliation with church, and I did not want to do that. I actually told my parents, when I came out to my parents, I told them, if it wasn't for Jesus, I would be a lesbian. I used those exact words. So my orientation definitely is to the same sex, but my identity is not necessarily all wrapped up in my sexuality. Because I've only ever fallen in love with women, because I only really find women sexually attractive, it makes sense to me that I would get married to a woman. And I believe that there's grace for that. I believe that God's huge and he's big, and it just makes sense. And I think Paul even talks about it in one of his epistles that, you know, if you can be single and you can be celibate, basically good for you, and that's awesome, and that's actually better because then you can just up and go whenever Jesus calls you and just do it. But if you can't be, and, you know, you need to get married then. So for me, I want to get married. And for me, that means a woman. What hurts me most about the world of sexual identity differences is people being so mean and not really listening to one another and coming with such harsh voices. And in all honesty, the thing that hurts me absolutely the most is when people use my Jesus and spew hate, because that's not him. That's what hurts me the most. My God has grace, and a whole lot of it. I think the person that sits at the opposite side of the table from me, I think very much is the person who doesn't want to listen. And that could be an LGBT activist that doesn't want to hear my conservative religious beliefs on various things. It could also be the more hate-filled fundamentalist Christian. In either situation, in either circumstance, I think it's the individual who doesn't listen and doesn't want to actually hear the other person's heart and another person's story. The best way that I believe that I can connect with somebody that opposes me is for me to shut up and listen. I have to pray a lot and ask for God's grace and to be able to see that person the way God sees that person. For those individuals who sit across the table from me, I want you to know that I really do want to know you. And I want you to know me. I'm a sexual minority. I'm a drummer. I have MS. And I'm not a mess, but I have multiple sclerosis. And I love Jesus a lot.
True love will find you in the end. You'll find out just who was your friend.
How I would describe myself sexually, straight.
I'm definitely straight. I'm curious at times.
That's sexy. Girl on girl, you know.
Oh God.
Yeah, heterosexual. A little bit of bisexuality in college, but I think that's just another way of saying you went to college, right? Is that you were bisexual?
A man should not love another man, or a woman shouldn't love another woman. So.
That's why we have Adam and Eve.
Yeah. So I just believe that, that's a sin, and if you sin, you go to hell.
We sin all the time, though.
I think it's wrong that in the Bible it says that if you're gay, then you're not in the Word of God. That makes me question the Bible.
Tolerance is bullshit. I hate that word. There's like this, it's like a linguistic mask of like a way to say you still have no respect for somebody else, but you'll tolerate them. I hate that phrase.
I usually encounter this a lot for being a lesbian, and tolerance for me is just a lesser of acceptance, but the ability to be in my presence.
I think I actually unconditionally accept them.
Every single person that comes into your life, you accept them. I call bullshit.
I mean, everyone's different. We have to learn to accept that. Just because you're different from someone doesn't mean you can't get along with them.
When I think of grace, I think of the Lord.
Grace. One thing that I'm struggling with.
People that are real deep into church, the Bible, things like that, they've been really the most hypocritical people. I mean, I believe in God and everything like that, but I just don't believe in religion.
I think religion tears people apart.
That's what it is.
A true friend stabs you in the front. People are hard with friendships these days because there's not the challenge. People look for the duplicates of themselves, but rather I'd want someone who's honest and can know me in situations better than I know myself.
Truth? Ain't nothing better than truth.
Anything absent of love, it's not truth.
And it's about love. Hate the sin, don't hate the person.
Like Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself.
Everybody wants it. It's funny, everybody wants it. Getting a job, getting married, all these aspects revolve around love, and I feel like it's something that everybody wants but doesn't know how to obtain it or define it. And so it starts within, That's what I feel like.
So I'm Julie, and I've loved Jesus since I was a little girl. And I've always been drawn to the big story of restoration that I believe God's been writing through creation throughout the centuries. And I've known that I was gay from the time I was in middle school. I have faced tremendous challenges trying to figure out, how do I walk with Christ? How do I flourish in the church as a gay Christian who didn't choose my attractions, didn't choose my orientation, but does have choices about how I'm going to express that and how I'm going to live this out. And Christians haven't been as receptive to the reality, the honest truth that my orientation hasn't changed after 10 years of trying to change it, and that I am gay. I'm as gay as those people they see on TV. I'm as gay as the people dancing in parades. But I feel like it makes them uncomfortable to know that I am one of those people out there in a sense. And I'm in here in the church. I felt really ostracized when some close, intimate friends in my life told me that if I chose to be gay, I wouldn't be allowed to be around their kids, and that they would hate that as the kids grew older. So condemnation about homosexuality I heard was, Julie Rogers, you are toxic. I feel like people are often uncomfortable with homosexuality with gay people just because they don't know very much about it. They don't know what to think, and there have been many messages sent to conservative Christians through the years that are kind of fear-based, of going, oh no, those gay people, they have an agenda, they're kind of infringing on our rights. And so naturally they just kind of get scared, and I understand that, and I think meeting more actual gay people goes a long way. And when I'm no longer an issue, a gay person out there, a problem in their minds, when I become a person, I think we both become more human to one another. As a gay Christian, honoring Christ's bisexuality is extremely difficult. The call to faithfulness, I believe, requires that I be celibate. So the idea that I wouldn't have a family, that I would be single, is challenging, it's difficult, it's painful, it can be lonely. Because I've really lost it all for Jesus. I believe that I honor him by living within the boundaries he set down in Scripture, believing he knew what would lead us to thriving and flourishing when he laid down the boundaries for sexual expression and for many other things in my life. I guess recovering from much of the pain I experienced in the church has happened in relationships, as Christians have come into my life and said, hey Julie, we love you, and we're in this with you, to come alongside you and to share life with you in the process. And 6 years of therapy has helped. When I say I'm a gay Christian, I use that term because that's the term our culture uses. If a 15-year-old finds himself attracted to other boys, I want that 15-year-old boy to meet some faithful Christians who love Jesus, who say, hey, I'm the same kind of gay as you, and this is what it looks like for me to honor God. I think people connect with me because I'm pretty honest, and I'm honest about being gay, I'm honest about being imperfect, I'm honest about not having a lot of answers. I think also gay people connect with me because I'm honest about my faith, and I'm honest about how much I love Jesus and the constraints that puts on my life, and ultimately the joys I find in that. I'm a real person, and I try to let them see that.
Tolerance would be to understand other people's differences.
Say passive acceptance.
Tolerance. Rules we live by so we don't actually have to get to know each other.
It's hard to realize that everything is gray, that everything mixes together. It's not always yes or no.
Because the world isn't black and white, and I don't even know if I would really call it gray. I'd call it a rainbow. And why wouldn't you want to taste every Skittle in the pack?
I feel that some sexualities are very wrong. He made man and woman.
I personally don't believe in homosexual sex, but like I said, like in a broken world as it is today, you're gonna see it, and you can't shun people for what the brokenness of this world has done to them.
Why would I feel different or guilty for feeling just love?
Truth is being able to accept honesty no matter what the downfall is.
Absolute truth, absolutely not.
Grace, a gift from God that we can share with other people.
The person on the other side of the table would be a very non-tolerant person.
The person who'd be on the opposite side from me is someone who thinks it's their place to give other people orders about how they live their life.
I don't think that I could connect with a judgmental person who doesn't agree with anything about me.
I feel that, yes, you can connect with somebody who is radically different. I am getting married to somebody just like that.
You know, I looked at somebody and I judged them simply, but what if? What if that person was exactly who I was, in a sense, just looked differently than I did?
It's when you start loving yourself, then you'll be able to say, hey, I accept you for you.
I guess compelling love, what I think of is how you feel or what you see makes you want to do more, continue the growth of that love.
This is why she's my girlfriend.
When you do truly love someone, your differences don't matter as much as your love does for each other. So you might disagree. Well, that is the case, but I accept that we disagree.
It's not just sacrifice, because you don't always have to sacrifice for it, but I think it's the willingness to.
My name is Michael Albert. I'm a sign language interpreter from Chicago, Illinois. I'm 48 years old. I was raised Jewish, but came to understand that I really simply have no idea how the universe runs. And so I guess I would call myself an agnostic, but I pretty much live as though I'm an atheist and don't really have much involvement in a spiritual life. I mean, I think I'd always been sort of different as a child. When I hit puberty, I just started realizing that the people I was looking at with attraction were not women, they were men. And for me, that was devastating. I'd grown up with the expectation that I would marry and have children and have the same suburban life that my parents did. Ultimately, I realized that that wasn't going to be my destiny. And I tried so hard to deny that part of myself, but I've never been very good at hiding, and I've never been very good at withholding. Ultimately, I did come out to my parents in the mid-'80s. My mother told my brother came and told me that he knew and told me that he was also gay, which was a very interesting thing from our family dynamic. I desperately want to connect with people I don't agree with and don't understand. And I believe certain things in my life are directed toward that. I actually belong to an organization that strives to do just that strives to bridge the gap between the evangelical Christian community and the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community. And I say that as a man who's an agnostic and a Jew. I so much admire that goal to bridge that gap and to bring everybody to that table. But one thing I find interesting is that if I really take another person's perspective, even when they don't have my best interests at heart, as I define it, sometimes I think in their mind, they do have my best interests at heart, that they want me to have, let's say, a closer connection to God, or they want me to go to heaven. And the way that comes out for them is to be very judgmental and to be confrontative. So I've got to respect that at some level. There just has to be a willingness for mutual understanding. And if there's that, I think I can open up to that. Who's at the opposite side of the table from me? There are the people who are so certain that they know how the universe works because I'm so uncertain of that. And because they're so certain, they believe that I am a force of evil in the world. And I'm not. And that's what I find so hard to understand. You know, I'm just trying to do right by the world. I'm not against family values. I have a family. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just trying to live an honest life. And I think the person across the table from me is the person who can't grasp that. Can I love them? Yes, but they have to be willing to meet me at least part of the way, at least be open to the idea that I'm not trying to hurt them. And that regardless of what any God might think of me, that I at least want them here and now to just like me for who I'm trying to be. I wish you to know me and love me.
I'll describe the state of the world today as being screwed up.
You got to be so careful what you say and who you say it around anymore.
We've walked away from moral values. We've thrown God out of everything.
Truth is that which you believe that you know and that you have knowledge of.
Truth is the truth. It's what's right.
Grace. I don't have much.
I do think there's a right or wrong when it comes to sexuality. I'm a firm believer in the Bible. You know, should be Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Love is being thankful that the person you love is standing next to you every moment of the day.
Love, the time, the people, the smiles, the life, the beauty.
He's living with me and yeah, we're having sex. The Bible says that is wrong, to be with him before I'm married.
You almost have to know a person first before I think you should marry him, and that's even with sex.
I think my definition of love has probably gone from being fairly black and white to being a much more grey issue.
I am doing something outside of what the Bible says. I am. I totally agree. But I don't think I'm being a hypocrite by it. Those days were back then, but the New Testament, well, it kind of makes me hypocritical, really. Think about it, it does. It does.
Don't get me wrong, I've known people that were gay, and I got along fine with them in business, worked with them. But that didn't make it all right by me or comfortable enough for them to hang with, you know?
What would I say to people? I say shut up and get over it. It's not your life, shut up. Leave it alone. Take the Bible out of the whole love thing and we'll be fine.
Why am I picking one issue or the other and saying homosexuality is wrong, but sleeping with somebody before you're married is okay?
I just might get cut off tonight. Jeez.
Compelling love, I think of everything you don't expect to fall in love with.
but yeah, you can't help it because it's love.
Do what you want to do. Whether you like it or not, do whatever you want. It's a free country. That's why we live here. Otherwise, what's the point? One love.
I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses and the voice I hear.
Stop you again, the phone keeps ringing.
Okay. Mary, do you just getting home from Edna's? Well, I wanted to tell you that I set up an appointment with the heart doctor tomorrow at 10:30 when we get through at the beauty shop. And I just wanted to tell you so you wouldn't make any plans. That's all I needed to tell you back, honey. Okay, bye. I'm Livonia Allard Lewis, and I'm 95 years old. It's been, I would say, 15 to 20 years ago. This Tom Land, he first came to the church, but he came to the contemporary worship service of our church. He played the piano for that contemporary worship service for several years. And I've never heard such beautiful music in my life. I've just never. And 2 or 3 weeks later, a couple that I had helped bring into the church said, I've got to be honest with you. He said, we may not be back. I said, why? And he said, well, he said, you know, I understand that Tom Land is a homosexual. And I said, oh, well? And he said, Livonia, you know what the Bible says about homosexuals. I said, yes, I know what it says about homosexuals, and I know what it says about alcoholics, and I know what it says about people that lose their temper, those people that abuse other people, all of the sins. 2 or 3 days after that, then I got a call from another member of our church, very faithful member, and he said, Livonia, I want to talk to you. What do you think about Tom Land being in our church so active? And I said, I think it's wonderful. And he kind of reluctantly, he said, but Livonia, you know he's a homosexual. I said, well, so what? He's God's child just like you and I. And so I'm not going to condemn him. I'm going to hold him in my presence and my prayers. Well, 2 weeks ago, in our Sunday school class, somebody said, did you know Tom Land is back? And sure enough, when Mary and I got into worship at the 11 o'clock service, he was playing the preludes, and oh my God, he was playing old-time hymns, but he was just putting all this beautiful stuff in it. So I put my purse down my pew, and we all have our pews, you know, and particularly I'm an old lady that nobody sits in my pew. That's just a joke. But anyway, I said, I've got to go down there and hug him. And I walk up behind him and see him, and he looked up and he said, oh, Livonia, you won't do. And I said, oh, how wonderful it is to see you. Every once in a while you see people, even in church, and they'll say, did you see so-and-so's hair? Wasn't that terrible? Well, you know, that bothers me. That pisses me off. But as I've gotten older, I'm not as eager to immediately express my opinion about things. I try to put myself in their place to wonder, how would this affect me if someone said it to me? It all goes together so well. Truth, grace, and love. Truth is to know that we're doing what God expects us to do. Grace, I don't know that I can describe grace other than the fact that it brings us in closer to everyone than just to say, I love you. You've got to show some actions to demonstrate your love, I think, when grace comes in. I'm 95, and I hope the few years that I have left that I can be more demonstrative in my love for others than I've ever been before.
Cause I'm on the outside and I'm looking in. Yeah, I can see through you and see your true colors. 'Cause inside you're ugly like me. But I can see through you and see through you.
I'm sorry, bogus.
Yo, but still you work the straight, that's all.
Yo, dude, ain't nothing.
I take it.
Ain't nothing.
It always happens.
Hey, dude, bogus string.
I'm looking for a love, whoa baby, I'm looking for a love, whoa yeah, I'm looking here and there, searching everywhere, I'm looking for a love to call my own. Thank you. Really nice, thank you.